In November 2003, Zero, a kaichou was released for the PlayStation 2. A month later, this would come out in North America as Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly and Project Zero 2 Crimson Butterfly in PAL regions in April 2004. With a bigger emphasis on story compared to the first game, Fatal Frame 2, which is what I'll be addressing it as going forward and you'll know why soon enough, is considered one of the most memorable titles in the series, introducing the trend of having future games in the series featuring songs by Tsukiko Amano. The game is even considered the scariest in the series, which is ironic given the heavier emphasis on story was because of feedback that people found the first game too scary. And that did hold true. As much as I hate to admit it, as tolerant as I am with horror games now, Fatal Frame 2 was definitely one I struggled with growing up. With the emphasis on story, that didn't stop the game prioritising its horror elements over action, and defeating ghosts with a camera was certainly a change from trying to shoot or beat up the horrors in games such as Resident Evil or Silent Hill. In 2004 to 2005, the game was ported to the Xbox as Fatal Frame 2/Project Zero 2 Crimson Butterfly Director's Cut. This version had enhanced visuals, better lighting, more costumes, another difficulty mode, survival mode, and a first-person mode as well as a new ending. Despite being what I consider the definitive version of the original game, the Xbox version wasn't as popular. Fast forward to 2012 and the game would see a remake on the Nintendo Wii. This remake would depart from the original fixed perspective camera to the over-the-shoulder approach that the series started using with Mask of the Lunar Eclipse when it released on the Wii in 2008. The main characters would get redesigns, the game's English dub was redone, which to be honest I wasn't as keen on, and the game's controls were to accommodate for the Wii Remote and Nunchuck for both the Camera Obscura and the Torch. The game also included the item grabbing mechanic from Mask of the Lunar Eclipse with the chance of a ghostly hand grabbing you to deal damage, and as something new, the game also has a haunted house mode, which was an on-rails experience where you had to complete objectives while traversing a set path. The Wii version also included 2 new endings and, interestingly enough, did not get a North American release. The European version released alongside Spirit Camera for the 3DS, and you can check out my review on it for more information on it. Now, we have another remake of Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly for modern consoles, and as an interesting note, this is the first time the game has been officially addressed in PAL regions as Fatal Frame instead of Project Zero. For transparency, a copy of this game was provided to me for review by Koei Tecmo. In Fatal Frame 2, you play the role of Mio and Mayu, who at the beginning of the game is reminiscing in a forest that's soon to be gone as the result of a dam project with her older twin sister Mayu and Mayu. The girls used to play in the forest, with a notable memory being Mayu falling and hurting her leg while running after Mio, an injury which she still carries to this day. As the girls sit together, a crimson butterfly flies past and Mayu gets up to follow it. Mio chases after her, and after catching up with her, they find themselves in the Lost Village, and that they have been spirited to the area. Mio and Mayu make their way down the hill and notice a woman entering a house. Mio and Mayu find themselves drawn to the house, especially Mayu, and as they enter, they soon find that they aren't alone and that there's more to this village than meets the eye. This is the beginning of an ordeal where Mio and Mayu must uncover the mysteries of the Lost Village, what happened there, and how to escape from it. Helping Mio will be the Camera Obscura, a camera created by Dr. Kunihiko Aso with the ability to see the unseen, and to help Mio defend herself and Mayu against the hostile spirits of the village, as well as discover clues as she explores it. But is this game any good? Find out in The Good. I really like the changes they've made to this game. The game got a bunch of new mechanics and additions, and it's really changed up the atmosphere of this game in my opinion for the better. While I'm familiar with what you need to do in Fatal Frame 2, you can't rely on your knowledge of the game to carry you through it either. Mio and Mayu have a hand-holding mechanic where Mio will lead with Mayu right behind her. While holding hands, Mio's health will slowly recover. This doesn't eliminate the need to use healing items, as you'll also have sections where the two are separated. Mio has a willpower gauge next to her health which depletes when she dodges or runs in combat. Enemies can also deplete the willpower gauge when Mio gets attacked, causing her to fall on the ground and the enemy to attack her on the ground, requiring a frantic photo to push them off. The village itself has been expanded with a field and small settlement to the southeast and east, and a small island off one of the houses that you would go to during the game. The Ghost Hand, introduced with Mask of the Lunar Eclipse and has been in every game since then, has been removed and replaced with the game having wraiths randomly hiding behind doors or an ambush when you pick up an item. Throughout the game, Mio will slowly open doors, and there's a chance that there will be a ghost hiding behind them to scare her. If the ghost manages to spook Mio, she'll begin the fight with her willpower gauge depleted. But if Mio is successfully able to shut the door before the ghost can scare her, the fight will still begin, but with no willpower penalty. This feature really added to the game's atmosphere, and you'll get moments where you won't be seeing ghosts for some time before one hiding behind the door gets you, which has unsettled me plenty of times throughout the game. Another feature introduced to this remake are special lenses that can be used by the Camera Obscura. While in the original you had lenses which provided special abilities such as slowing a ghost down, for example, they have been replaced and combined with filters that you can get for the camera. Outside the standard filter you have the paraceptual filter, which will reveal vanishing traces and will temporarily blind enemies, the exposure filter, which can restore or reveal hidden areas while slowing enemies, and the radiant filter, which can unseal certain locations at the cost of your willpower, as well as having a charge shot which can deal more damage. Charms have been added to the game that can provide you with benefits such as healing when taking photos, having your willpower recover faster, having a certain filter do more damage, and even changing the likelihood of encountering certain enemies, for example. While in your first playthrough you can only have one equipped, you can purchase additional charm slots in a New Game Plus playthrough. Charms can be obtained by completing side stories, as they can also double as stones to listen to with the spirit radio, as well as through purchasing them with photo points, which you can obtain through taking photos of enemies. You can unlock more things to spend your photo points on by taking photos of various twin dolls around the village too, which is another addition to the game. This remake has 6 endings and has done away with the endings it added in the Wii version, replacing them with 2 new endings, though one is just an expansion of the other. The other 4 were present in the PS2 version and the Xbox Director's Cut. I really do like a lot of the changes made to the game while keeping the main story beats pretty much the same. On that topic, the expansion of the story and addition of more side stories is something I appreciated too, and it also changed up what I remember from the game. A good example is when you encounter your first hostile ghost in the game. In the original, you would have to go to one of the back rooms of the Osaka house and take a photo of a fireplace in order to gain access to a room to get a key so you can go upstairs. In this remake, the back room is sealed off until a side quest begins, which happens later in the game, which ultimately leads you to that room. Expanding on the original game, when I was in the Kurosawa house and I was being chased by the Kusabi, a ghost that you aren't able to defeat with your camera and you're forced to avoid, in all other versions of the game, the Kusabi will stop chasing you once you leave the room that you first meet it in. You can imagine to my surprise when in this game, it continued to chase me into the following room, forcing me to find a hiding spot to hide from it. The spirit list is still present in the game, where you might get a glimpse of a ghost that you can take a photo of. These spirits are mostly harmless, but they do provide a little context or clues to what's happened in the village, though some will ultimately lead you to a fight. The main story remains surprisingly intact. While things such as finding the twin keys to cross the bridge to the Kurosawa house has been changed around, for example, this doesn't affect the overall plot, and the game will force you into the Crimson Butterfly ending on your first playthrough, with others unlocking on New Game Plus playthroughs, and the new endings requiring you to beat the game in Nightmare mode while completing all the side stories as well as other requirements. The faithfulness to the original story I appreciate, especially compared to other remakes I've played in the past. I still like the game's combat with the Camera Obscura for the most part. Mio doesn't have to always fight, and she does have the option to run away and hope that if you get far enough, the ghost will just leave her alone. But when you do have to fight, the Camera Obscura and its film will be your only weapon. The Camera Obscura takes different types of film, and the film used will determine its strength and reload time, with Type 7 being the weakest and Type 0 being the strongest, though due to its strength, Type 0 takes significantly longer to load. Film can be found throughout the Lost Village, and some are in locations that were inaccessible in the original game. When you fight a ghost, ideally you want to take a photo of it as it attacks you so you can push it back and maximise the damage. If you're lucky and you manage to get a fatal frame shot, you'll enter shutter time, where you can take a series of photos rapidly without having to reload to build up damage while the ghost is stunned, but each shot is taken using Type 7 film. If you're not a fan of the camera display and prefer a look similar to the original games, you can also select the classic camera from the options, which will cut off the sides when the camera is raised instead of blurring them. Mio can also pick up prayer beads throughout her adventure, which can be used to upgrade the Camera Obscura, such as being able to carry more film, adding more focal points to deal more damage, the ability to zoom to increase range, and focus manually so you can get the ghost to light up more focal points. prayer beads can also be used on the filters you get to further enhance their effects, such as damage and reload speed. Fighting ghosts does provide some benefits as you gain photo points for doing so in order to buy items and charms with harder difficulty levels, awarding you with more points at the cost of the ghosts dealing more damage. However, as much as I enjoyed this game, it isn't without fault, so let's talk about what I didn't like in the bad. Enemies can get very overwhelming in the game's final chapter, where it gets to a point where the constant enemy encounters can be an absolute slog, especially if you're looking to complete all of the side stories, as some can only be done in the final chapter. It does add to the tension, and you do have to manage how much film you have, but it does take away a lot of the fear factor that the game has built up over the course of your adventures in the village, when you almost always know that there will be something behind the door, or you move a few meters just to be harassed by another ghost. I get from a story standpoint why the ghosts would be more aggressive and appear more often, but the encounter rate was almost absurd. It also doesn't help that ghosts can also become aggravated, which will allow them to recover health and become even more aggressive. While the Wii edition had ghosts which did this too, I just feel that by late game this is either just to artificially increase the difficulty or just force you to waste your resources. Though thankfully, if you damage the more aggravated ghosts enough, you'll immediately enter shutter time and they'll revert back. With New Game Plus, the film you've picked up on your first playthrough will no longer be there either, so you have to rely on spending your photo points to buy your film and make sure that you have enough to manage. Thankfully, notes that you've collected will add to your photo points when collected again in New Game Plus, so that's a bonus too. Unlocking and buying costumes, prayer beads to upgrade the camera, and transcendence beads to upgrade it even further also requires you to do a lot of grinding for photo points, and it really doesn't help when you have to buy your film with points too. Though thankfully, you do have chapter select to make this a little bit more manageable. There were also some things around combat I wasn't as keen on. With the filters added to the game, it can get a little chaotic switching between filters while fighting ghosts, and on top of that, one of the things you can upgrade on the Camera Obscura is its focus and zoom, which can also be tricky to manage while you have a ghost or multiple ghosts attacking you. Thankfully, the game does have an autofocus which does make this more manageable, but I feel like this game has overcomplicated parts of the battle system, though during my playthrough I managed to get by without having to fiddle around with these functions a great deal, so it's a minor gripe on my end. I also wouldn't have minded if some of the stuff from the director's cut or the Wii remake was added, such as the FPS mode or the Haunted House minigame. I think that could have made the game a little more fun too. Other than that, there's not much else for me to complain about, so let's wrap things up with the opinion. I enjoyed my time with Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly Remake. As a remake, the game does exceptionally well retaining the original story while making the game different enough to the point where I can't entirely rely on what I remember from the original PS2 game, the Xbox's Director's Cut, or the Nintendo Wii remake. I do appreciate the side stories the game's added to provide some more lore around the people who lived or wandered into the village, and the additional areas added to the game. The combat still remains solid for the most part, though some added functions such as the additional lenses, manual focus and zoom can make things a little chaotic, especially if dealing with multiple ghosts. The only major gripes I had with the game was how frequent and aggressive enemies got in the final chapter, which I feel dampens the unsettling atmosphere the game had set up to this point, as enemies will appear so frequently and have a higher chance of hiding behind doors that it becomes more of a nuisance and a drain of resources. Having to farm photo points to purchase and unlock charms, charm bags, beads for upgrading and costumes, while also maintaining a healthy supply of film can be a bit of a slog too. Nonetheless, this remake still unsettled me at times and is a significant step up from the last two games in the series. If you enjoyed the Fatal Frame series, and if you especially liked 2, then I think you'll enjoy this game. Hell, if you've played Silent Hill F, they even have Hinako's school uniform and the fox mask available in the game too, which is pretty neat. So with that, it's time for my rating. I would give Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly Remake a Spirit Stone out of 10. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next Infinite Backlog review. If you enjoyed today's review, feel free to like, comment and subscribe for more. You can check out our other videos or follow us on X, Instagram and Facebook. Once again, thank you for watching.